A man stands at an airport counter. His passport looks perfect. Every stamp, every seal. Real. There's just one problem. The country that issued it does not exist. Not anymore. Not ever. This is a story the internet swears is true, and the reason it might not be is stranger than the story itself. Tokyo, Haneda Airport. The story says 1954. A businessman arrives on a routine flight from Europe, well-dressed, calm, fluent in several languages, the kind of traveler no one looks at twice. He hands over his passport. The officer flips it open and stops. The nationality reads Taured. The officer has never heard of it. He asks the man where that is. The man is confused by the question. He points to the map on the wall. His finger lands between France and Spain, right where a tiny nation should be. But there's no Taured there. There's Andorra. The man laughs. Andorra? He's never heard of it. And his country, he says, has existed for over 1,000 years. Now, hold that image, because here's the first thing that should bother you. His passport wasn't blank. It wasn't crude. The story insists it was covered in stamps, from this same airport, from visits that, according to every record, never happened. So who stamped it? We'll come back to that. The officials do what officials do. They detain him. His money is strange, currencies that don't match any nation. His paperwork checks out, and yet checks out to nowhere. The company he says he works for exists, but has never heard of him. Everything about him is almost real, real enough to pass, wrong enough to terrify. They put him in a hotel room for the night. 2 guards outside the door. No other exit. A window with a long drop and nothing below. They plan to question him again in the morning. Morning comes. The room is empty. No man, no passport, no strange currency. The guards saw nothing. The door never opened. He is simply gone, as if he was never issued to this world in the first place. That's the legend, and for decades people have offered the same breathless explanation. A parallel universe, a world where a country called Taured did exist. A man who slipped through some crack between realities and got yanked back before anyone could prove it. It's a perfect story. And that should be your warning. Because here's what actually happens when you go looking for the man from Taured. You find no flight record, no airport report, no newspaper from 1954, no detained businessman, no missing guest, nothing. The earliest version anyone can trace shows up in a book, decades later in the 1980s, a collection of odd tales and possibilities. No source, no witness, no paper trail. The story didn't come from an archive, it came from a printing press. So how did a tale with zero evidence spread to millions? That's the real mystery, and it's a far more useful one. Think about what the story gives you. A stranger who's almost normal, a document that's almost real, a place that should be there and isn't. It sits right on the edge of plausible, close enough to feel like a memory, off by just 1 degree. That single degree is the hook. Your brain hates the gap. It wants to close it. So the story sticks, not because it's proven, but because it's unfinished. And every time it gets retold, it gets cleaner. The date sharpens, the guards multiply, the window gets higher. Details appear that no original ever had, because there was no original. The man from Taured grows more detailed the further we travel from any evidence he existed. That's not how memory works. That's how legend works. So was there ever a man with an impossible passport? Maybe a hoaxer. Maybe a mistranslation. Maybe a con artist with a forged document and a good story. Any of this is far more likely than a hole in the universe. But none of them are as satisfying. And satisfaction, not truth, is what keeps a story alive. Here's the part that lingers. The man from Taured was never really about a missing country. He's about us. About how easily we'll believe a border that isn't there, if the passport looks official enough. The most convincing lies aren't the wild ones. They're the ones off by a single degree.